Hello and welcome to Tales from the Shed. And we've been talking about Alison's got this amazing holiday coming up.
Two, in fact. Yeah.
Anyway, she's got one amazing holiday.
Yeah.
We may not talk about the other one because I might be a bit jealous. But we've got this, and we were talking about, a little while ago, about finding who we are and what we are. And that doesn't stop. I don't think that stops. We always think it's going to stop when we're 20, 40. But we're still developing. And I think we reach a stage in our life where we have been a role, whatever that role is, working, relationships, whatever, and we need to find ourselves. And one way of finding ourselves is kind of finding the danger zone, the
zone.
We're
kind of talking what's happening, what's coming outside your comfort zone.
Comfort zone.
Yeah, and it was interesting because the trip that I've got coming up quite soon is I'm going to Morocco, and part of that is going to be up in the High Atlas mountains, and and a different story will come back. Part of that was going to be trekking up in the High Atlas, and it's turned out that that's not going to happen for me, but I know something else. I mean, we're going to be staying at 2,000 feet at this amazing place in the High Atlas and all the rest of it, and so we were kind of talking about that, and that I'm a little bit nervous about it, which is something that I hadn't kind of thought, but it is like, and I'm finding that I'm having to need to get everything sorted that I can get sorted. And then there'll still be things that aren't,
that you can't
sort, that I can't sort and I can't develop.
So why do you think this is, how do you feel this is developing? What changes do you feel with this? Because it's feel the fear and do it anyway, which is always a good thing. But
yeah, well, I certainly had to let go of, I want to, I'm going, originally that was kind of the point of the thing. You went to High Atlas, you stayed there for a bit, and then you go for this trek. Now it looks like the trek's not going to happen for me. So then it's like, so I've got to let go of that as the goal of it and trust that there's a reason. Because somebody said to me, "Oh, are you still going?" And I went, "Well, of course I'm still going."
But that's interesting.
I'm still going because whatever's going to fill its place, I have to trust that something's going to fill its place that is important for me to be there.
Because what you've been doing is finding that end goal, and that. But now this is much more about you rather than a scripted end goal. If you get to the end goal, then you've fulfilled it. It's like, no, you've got to write your own achievement here, which is that's another out of your comfort zone.
I know, it is. And it's kind of allied to SPACT. And the second trip, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk about it, because we're going to go to the Arctic in February, the Swedish Lapland. And we looked at the temperatures, and the high, as hot as it gets, is -3. That's going to be like that in February. And I was talking about wanting to, with my daughter, we've kind of asked the place where we're staying, can they do the thing, the Wim Hof thing?
Yes.
Which is how we got into it. Let's cut a hole in the ice, and we get in there, and we'll do that, and then we'll go in the sauna, and all the rest of it. And that reminded you of you're reading his book.
I've only recently, because talk about coincidence, I only bought his book. I saw his television show. I was quite intrigued because not what people were doing. His message was, we are stronger than we know. We've got more places to develop than we think. Our brain is, we use a small part, there's more to it. And he does talk about this at length in his book. But I love that sort of thirst for who we are. And we're very often, interestingly, talking about your trip to Morocco, we get caught in, if we get there, then that's enough. And he's going, no, it's the internal. It's what goes on inside. It's finding our own power. It's developing our own power. And he uses the cold to find that, which is really interesting. Cold and breathing, deep breathing, which yogis have done for ages, the deep breathing and finding that stuff. But because I was intrigued by it, I've started, now if you ask anybody, I used to have a kettle of hot water with me if I ever went in the sea, and I used to find the Mediterranean way too cold. There's no way I'm going swimming in the Mediterranean or anywhere like that.
Yeah, and you were very scathing about my need to go in the sea.
And then but then I started, just having seen it, I thought I'll dip, and there was a lot to it. So I've started having the end of my shower, I do not have cold showers, but at the end of my shower, I turn the cold water on, and I'm gradually building up, and I'm now up to 1 minute of cold shower, and amazingly I get excited, which I always thought I could bear it, but actually afterwards you do feel fantastic. And I was talking to someone else who was secretly doing it because she didn't like to talk about it, because she said, I don't really like to tell people I'm taking cold showers, it feels weird. But she's got a real circulation problem in that her hands and feet go blue even in the summer.
Yeah, Raynaud's, you said. Raynaud's
Yes,
syndrome. Yeah.
and she has this real problem, and she said, I haven't had it since. And I do think that I feel much better. And I was also thinking of my age, and as I always do, is this better with menopause and hot flashes? Not just, but I do think it brings a balance to a lot of things. And I know that what first of all fears, you find a way of getting into and finding more depth in yourself. But she's found it amazing. So I'm sitting with it like I do a lot of things to disprove it. And so far it's disproved me.
I think it's really interesting, because it's like you had this horror of getting in the sea.
Horror of being cold.
Horror, yeah.
Absolute horror of being cold.
To the extent you were just like, you know what, I'm just going to hang out on the beach. It's over. And it was only by mistake that you had your costume with you the day that we went to the beach. And to me, it's interesting. So I have no issue with going and getting in the sea like I did yesterday. And I swam for maybe 20-25 minutes in the sea. Although what's that now, the temperature, it's interesting because at the moment
warmer now than it will be.
It's about 15 degrees.
Yeah.
It's about 15 degrees, and what's quite interesting is it's kind of the same as the air temperature.
Yes.
So when you go into it, you don't have that the same, which is great. And then you realise you've been in this cold water for half an hour. So I can do that for like 25 minutes, half an hour. I was swimming up to 40 minutes in the summer when it was like, you know, I was going in, I was going, yeah, it's brilliant. I could do a kilometre in the sea. And then it's like, and you saying having a cold shower, and I'm going, are you crazy? What am I doing? You know, and it's kind of that really interesting thing to say, I can contemplate doing this, but the thought of doing it deliberately when I'm in my night, so it's interesting. I have to say, I have recently, now this is because I've got this thing. Last year I swam up to the 1st of November in the sea. And I had this realization on the 1st of November I was swimming, and it was a little bit choppy, it was a little bit horrible outside, and when I got out I knew my feet were going to be freezing and all this kind of thing, and I'm swimming, I'm thinking, I'm not enjoying this, so I'm going to stop, because I'm doing it just because I said I would. So I stopped. So my aim, and it'd be interesting to see what happens this year, is I just need to get to November the 2nd. All right, so it's just, I just want to just stretch it a bit. It's a bit like adding 5 seconds on. I'm just going to add on a day, and then of course I'm going to Morocco, and I'm kind of thinking I'm going to have this week where I'm not going in the sea every other day. So I'm going to come back, and then it's going to be impossible for me to get to November 2nd. But what an interesting concept that I could substitute
cold shower
when I'm in Morocco.
That would be good. And it's interesting what you said about I'm not enjoying this, and it's this real balance between, is this fearful, or is this I'm just done at the moment with this, or can you find that love of it in a different way, whereas you know, can you find the depth of, this feels really different than it did in the summer. This is a bit choppier. It's a bit windier.
It just felt a bit more dangerous, I have to say. It was just like, I'm not comfortable here, and you're always going to be the only person in the sea at this point. And I'm just thinking, various other times, it feels like this is great, because it feels like it's my own private beach, and it's really nice. And I'm just going, this feels like, it's a bit like I've been watching too much Saving Lives at Sea. This feels about me getting washed out to sea, and nobody's going to find me, and you know, nobody's going to know. Why would people know? So there's that fear is coming in.
Take a waterproof cover for your phone, and then you can be in the sea, sort of but it is that, again, that honesty, or can I gestalt and change the way that I'm looking at this?
Yes.
Because the coldness, will that expand? Can I expand into this, Or is this really just being done right now?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've always had the thing that when I start swimming, it's okay, I've got a shorty wetsuit, and I go from a shorty wetsuit then to a rash vest and then just the costume. So I've always had it, but coming out of it, and I've been thinking, well, I could probably handle putting the rash vest on, but by the time if I'm getting to having to put the wetsuit on again, then why am I doing this?
Yeah.
So I've kind of had this thing that if you're going to have to wear it, now I have taken a revolutionary step. I have bought myself some wetsuit socks and wetsuit gloves, because the problem with coming out of the water when the water temperature is 12 but outside is 5 is that in that walk from the sea to your clothes, your feet are going, are you kidding? What the hell have you just done? And it's painful and it's horrible. And I always had to make sure that was the first thing I had to do, was get them dry and get socks on, whatever else I did. And so I'm thinking, okay, let's get some wetsuit socks and the gloves if I need them, because that takes away the painful bit of it.
Which it is painful.
It is painful when you come out, and you're kind of thinking, I'm just going to do it so I can still enjoy it, and I know that when I come out, it'll be fun.
So we're going to have a follow-up.
Okay.
On November the 3rd. To see what actually happens.
What happens.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think it's finding the joy of that, without being ridiculous, like you say, it's hurt my feet, but finding the joy so that you can, that expansion that you had, is that still possible, or is that your limit, or are we out of the comfort zone and finding further expansion, which I do feel that you would find, because you get so much from that cold water swimming. It's just like, so if you need this and need that, and if you feel I just need to have my phone on a clip with me.
I just need to swim in a beach. I just need to not go out into the estuary. As long as I'm in an enclosed bit.
Into the estuary. What do you?
I do. Anyway, so it's a bit interesting, because it's like, when I was doing my coaching business, I had this thing about coaching while walking, because it's a different way of doing it. And there was this great, and I realised, there I was, this academic, I found a nice piece of research that said you're I think it's like 60% more creative when you're walking. It's great. And they did it from Stanford, but what they found was you could walk on a treadmill and you could be just as creative as if you walk outside. So for me, the swimming in the sea, having a cold shower in my house, it's a bit like walking on a treadmill. So that's an interesting thing for me to get to grips with, because I have it that I can only get this feeling, and it's about going in the sea, and it's about the swimming in the sea, and that's what it's associated with. Crikey, what happens if I can get some of that by just standing in, and having the cold shower?
So this is your own personal longitudinal study that you are watching unfold before your eyes, with real life cross section of 2.
We are the focus group of 2. But watch this space,